Ja, ja. Ist sie bei mir oben? Ich sehe sie nicht.
Feuer, drüben ist Feuer.
Geh gucken, da brennt's.
Komm, fliegen Sie schneller hin. Ich sehe ja gar nichts.
Da musst du auch nichts sehen.
Komm runter hier. Hier.
Ja.
All right, gentlemen, Ramrod XR, Paul here. Today I'm going to have a very exciting new update. We are presenting the drone simulator that is the only one that works in virtual reality multi-user environments. And it has so many advantages, from using it in a military way, for example, to train drop pilots, FPV pilots, in a police way, for example, for special forces, but also for rapid response forces, or for firefighters, in order to understand how the fire is actually spreading. And obviously drone pilots are everywhere today, but the technology and also the profession is growing, which means we will have many more pilots, we will have many more opportunities to use the drones, but there is no real way to train how to use the drone, especially in a tactical or in a tactics environment, because if you want to use the drone, you are close to violating the airspace, for example, that needs permission, that is extremely hard to plan, because obviously you need some kind of dynamic in your situation that you want to train. And there is no really good way, especially on the military side, to train with drones. Yeah, you cannot blow up your own people with FPV drones that have an RPG or an anti-tank ammunition attached to it. It's simply not possible. You cannot train that against driving vehicles, and you cannot train that against infantry, for example, that is really trying to shoot you down, for example. And you can also not train infantry how to train against a drone that is dropping ordnance, for example. So as we see here already in these like very small examples, there are so many problems with training with drones that we decided, hey, let's create a product here where we are actually able to maintain and train. Right, so that means we are able to maintain our SOPs and to train our forces, but we are also able to develop new SOPs, which is extremely important, because if we don't do that, then we are basically standing on our position, and we're not moving in regard of innovation, because our training capabilities do not allow that, right? So despite the fact you can train with drones, it's no problem to go outside on whatever, let's say, a military exercise area, and simply fly a little bit with your drone, recon drone or force drone, it doesn't matter. You can do that, but once it goes into, for example, live fire, once it goes into dynamic use of the drone, CUAS, or how to counter the drone versus drone, yeah, all these aspects, they are simply not possible, and there are no processes currently that allow us very easy to do that. Now, in the virtual environment, in virtual reality, it is like this. Yeah, this is extremely fast to generate, for example, a moving vehicle and to train the drone pilot where to actually hit. For example, FPV pilots. FPV drones that are cheap are currently the spearhead of technology, and they are basically driving innovation. Now, remote control drones were basically I would say, spearhead a couple of months ago, and now currently the fiber optics drones are basically have taken over, and that means that first of all we have fiber optics all over the place, but they are double as expensive as they were before. But these are only like symptoms of the problem, right? So the cause of the whole process here is that on the battlefield we have innovation, and in innovation there will be challenge and change in the process, which means we will be required to adapt to that. But if we cannot train in a way to basically use electronic warfare against our, let's say, enemy forces here, our own enemy forces in training, for example, then we will not be able to determine if the electronic warfare is actually good. Now, fast forward, now electronic warfare is mostly, or not mostly, but is likely useless. And the problem here is, how do we adapt to that, right? Are we now gearing up everybody with shotguns, for example? And if so, how do we train the guys so they do not shoot our own drones, for example? There are a lot of these kind of problems, and by basically simulating the battle space in virtual reality in multi-user, and this is the difference here. So it's not, you're not alone. You are with multiple people on the battlefield, like for example with your comrade, and you are actually surviving, and you're trying to survive in these hostile environments, right? From the police perspective, it's basically the same. So currently we are facing terror threats, active shooters and whatnot, and especially special forces, but also rapid response forces have adapted the SOP that they want to use drones to first of all observe, but also to clear, right? So they use the drone to clear up a position, for example, before they enter it with humans. And this makes sense to use the drones for that, but it requires obviously to be very dynamic. And the problem here is you cannot fly everywhere. You simply do not have permission, and despite the fact you are very special and stuff, but it's not possible to do that. So that's why we are introducing using the, for example, optics of the drone also in our simulation system, because you can learn how to fly, you can learn how to be a helpful asset for your ground force commander, for example, in order to actually help the whole solution and help to solve the problem. And it is not about flying the drone. It's like it's about solving a tactical problem, for example. So a hostage taking, and the drone can be used to enter the building as first, for example, or let's say if we have a bigger complex, let's say a school or something like that, there are simply not enough persons to clear up the whole building. And so drones can be used to determine, okay, where are the hot zones, basically. Obviously, there are many more advantages of drones in this kind of way. Let's say also it's not only about drones, but UAS and UAV and ground vehicles also. And we are focusing on simulating all those in order to be able to train pilots and users, but also commanders who are leveraging this kind of technology. And they can only do that while they are actually experiencing how much power they have. Let's say in a military way, for example, if you are in defense and you're defending from a build-up position, then you have the ability to defend the position with a lot less people than before if you used rifles, for example. But now if you can use drones, it is much more efficient because the drone can be steered into the target, reset, next drone basically. And there are a lot of other interesting stakeholders that can use this kind of drone simulator. For example, the firefighters. Yeah, because firefighters, they need also to assess the situation. They need to be able to give a very good evaluation of what to do. 1, 2, 3, you do this. And as the ground force commander, you are also in charge of different assets. So you need to determine, are my assets enough, or do I need to ask for more support, basically. And for example, if we have huge fires, then the problem is to understand, okay, how is the fire, for example, spreading? Where is it going? And where am I? Where are my people? Are they successful in their efforts? Are there any persons that are left basically in danger? And all of these kind of information can be generated very fast by using UAVs. But the problem is, if you are a firefighter, for example, and you want to train with a drone, there is a huge risk that you are losing the real platform that is now used in the real mission, basically. So that means if there's a real fire and you have crashed the drone in training, there will be no more drone. And the other problem is obviously the situations where a drone is like deciding between it goes very well or it goes worse, much worse, are very hard to train, and they are not very easy to display in real life training. That means, so you cannot like burn down a 10,000 square meter building complex, because the problem is you will not be able to control that, right? You will only do things with real fire, with live fire that you can control, for example, in a training container or something like that. And so it will be very controllable. But all these kind of things, like having huge fires or crowds or all of these impossibilities, they are very hard to train and to display, because they need a lot of logistics and a lot of effort in order to be trained. So our drone simulator offers a lot of these kind of solution. So first of all, we are able to display different drone types. So for example, these kind of DJI consumer drones that are very widespread. It doesn't matter what the actual manufacturer is, but they are very supported in regard of their control modes. They typically have optics. They have, for example, thermal, and you can all use that. Yeah, you are able to use this kind of technology here in the simulator too. You can learn to fly a drone without any risk, and it is very, very easy. You simply use our controller, and we are also able to back up and hook up any other controller. It doesn't really matter. The simulation software obviously lives with being in multi-user. That means you're typically in the mission, you're not alone. Doesn't matter what kind of person you actually are, police, military, firefighter, security, doesn't matter. You are typically together, and you need to assess the situation together. So our solution allows to not only generate these kind of scenarios, but also be able to replay them in the after action review, where we can see where, for example, the drone has been flown, and it's also interesting what the trainee that has flown the drone has actually seen, right? That means he's able to understand, okay, as a trainer, I'm able to understand where they are, where they did the recon on, and what were the results, what did they report, and what was the actual, let's say, observation that they were able to do. So this is very important to understand and to have, because in real life it's not that easy to, for example, analyze the flight path And for example, if there's bad weather, bad sight and whatnot, how dangerous was the flight path, how high was the risk of losing the asset, and a lot of other aspects, flight time, all of this is plotted simply automatically. And the interesting part is here that this is simply another player, and one player in the whole simulation. So we have like cars, we have non-user characters, we have users and themselves that are interacting with each other, and the drone pilot is like one part in that whole gearbox, right? It's one gear in the whole gearbox, which is very, very powerful because you can train together. You can finally start to simulate whole situations. For example, the firefighters are arriving at a fire, and so the first attack troop, who is actually going into the fire, they are doing their job, and the drone pilot, who is also on the vehicle, he's already doing his job and generating the information that is needed for the ground force commander to be able to assess the situation a little bit better. And obviously, we are here talking about lives and about risk in this situation, so there is no margin for failure, obviously. And if we have these kind of solutions, for example in a terror attack, to learn, okay, where is the problem actually coming from, yeah? Where is the suspect? Much faster than observing that from the ground level. This is game changing. This is something to be able to train together and to really hook up with these forces that I typically only have once shit hits the fan, basically. And we want to be the first system and also the first simulation that is actually able to do that, because we think that the drones are here to stay, and there is no real solution or that has been presented to the world where we think, okay, that is so important because everybody is basically using these kind of systems, and we're asking ourselves, why is there nobody who is solving the problem? So Ramrod is responding to the call. We are here. We are providing the world's first VR multi-user simulation. We have all these kind of drones, for example, FPV drones with ordnance that are explodable, that are very important. And we allow that. We allow the training of these kind of systems already today. So it's not like a future thought or a product that is like far away. You can already purchase the system, and it will allow you to train, for example, FPV pilots that are currently crucial, for example, for the war in Ukraine, on scale and with the highest level of realism that is actually possible.